Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Jason.
All right, I'm calling this meeting to order. This is the Truth in Taxation public meeting for 6 o'clock Monday, December 4th. I'm sure all the folks that are here ended up seeing that on their tax statement, that tonight is that meeting. Please note that all members of the council, with the exception of Councilor Wagner, are present. So the intent of this meeting is to go through our budget and what we're looking and proposing for next year. This meeting, as long as I've been on the city council, ends up being misunderstood of what this meeting is, but I am more than willing to walk through some process that gets us to where we're at today. So this meeting is intended to walk through the proposed budget for the city of International Falls on how the city intends to spend the tax dollars that are collected. We will not be discussing in any capacity how much your taxes are or the value of your homes or any of that. The time to have those conversations for the value increases on your homes are through the county with the county tax assessor when you get your yellow forms in the spring. That's when the assessments go on to your what the value is on your homes. Again, the purpose of this meeting is to go through the budget that we have prepared. I will have.
Before you get too far into it, we have packages like last year, right, that break that down. Last year they had information packages on taxation.
They were.
Can we ask you questions?
We will get to that point where there will be questions for sure. Yes. Did the packets not get handed out?
Well, I thought we had a few, but there's just a few on each of the,
They are there?
well, there's just a couple, so they're going to make a few copies.
Okay.
They'll be right back.
Okay. So with that information, I just want to let you guys know that the budget that we have before you today, by state mandate, we had to finalize, or not finalize, we had to have prepared and sent off to the state. So there has been additional workings on the budget that we have, but the one that's presented today is the one that we are discussing. We will be taking any input from the folks that are here today to change that budget to have adopted at the end of the year, which would be December 18th, which is our next council meeting. Betty, do you want to do a quick overview of the budget, or do you want me to go through it?
I'd rather, Mayor, if you could, and then I'd ask Brad possibly to give a review of, as the finance officer,
Okay.
he's, yep.
No problem. So what we're looking at for this year, if you look onto, I'm going to wait until you guys get the packets, because that would be foolish of me to just continue without you guys having. So if you want to ask some questions at this time, I would definitely.
The only question I have is, now if we want to dispute our property tax increase, do we have to make an individual appointment with the county assessor?
You would have to
Is
dispute.
that done on an individual basis?
It is, and that time frame was in March or April. You could dispute your values next year when you get a new evaluation that comes out, and then that would be the time that you would be able to do that. But again, the city, we have no piece of that.
That doesn't answer my question. Is it an individual appointment with the assessor?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
That's the only reason I'm here. You might as well
You can only do that in March and April?
When you get your yellow sheet,
You get the yellow-
when you get the yellow sheet from the county, it gives you all the
How hard
dates
is it to get an appointment?
very easily.
He's online.
What about reassessing your property where you live and what you're paying?
That would be a conversation you'd have to have with the county tax assessor.
It's really crazy right now.
It looks like some people are being targeted.
Yeah,
I would definitely have that conversation with the county tax assessor.
can't pay more than somebody else that's living by garbage. I'm paying more for taxes than people that got 5, 6 buildings on their property. And I live between 2 houses that are garbage, that are full of blight. Sure, they cleaned up some of the blight, but it's not done.
Mhm.
It's bad out
I
there.
don't know if you're aware of 70-some% increase in your tax.
Yeah.
This isn't stomachable.
I'm at 62% myself.
I'm at a point to hire an attorney, fight the county.
Yeah, and
Like she said, we're surrounded by garbage.
I think where you have,
You guys
There's only
rezone
2
things.
houses on my block that are worth over 70,000.
You let double
Hold-
wide
hold on,
trailers
hold
come
on.
into our
hold on.
our neighborhood. You let storage buildings be put up, so there's no chance of any residential building being there again.
No way to sell your house for what they got the taxes for. There's just no way.
City
No way to
administrator.
sell a house.
Mayor, for order, could you, if they're going to address this, the council, they should come up and state their name and address for the public meeting that, or the public hearing that we are in the
I
middle of?
apologize,
Please.
yes.
Thank you.
We'll do this with the assessor.
Okay.
People just are so worked up over this, people have to vent.
well, I know that's where you gotta start, okay? You gotta go to the assessor and sit down with them, get an appointment. That's where you have,
Write a letter or anything?
that's where you gotta start.
Write a letter?
I would see,
I would-
I would personally sit right across from them. I'm at 72% on my house.
Yeah. Most of us are retired now. You want us to put 2 paychecks away?
I could see-
Paula, I do need you, if you guys are going to continue to talk, I do need you to come up and
Just want to make one comment before I leave. I just, if my,
give me your name and address. We need it for the record.
Alan Gothier, 1719 Third Avenue East.
Okay.
If the rest of the properties surrounding me were worth the same value of mine, I could see assessing you.
And I'm Paula Black at
But I look out my window and there isn't a house
1718 Third Avenue.
in sight that's worth $30,000.
Yeah.
Not when you got $20,000 tax right next to it. You got to tell me I'm gonna sell my house for $170,000.
And again, I think that those would be great conversations to have with the county tax assessor, because everything ends up being based off of comparables and what properties are selling at. And he would be a great resource in that.
Yeah, 'cause he should be able to tell you, okay, that's not really worth that. How the hell did they come up with that?
All right.
Mayor?
Yes.
Yeah, just remind the council to speak into the mic. They can-
Yes. Yep.
To what?
Speak into the mic.
You have one there?
All right.
Oh, yeah.
I have one, yeah.
If we,
Have nothing to say right now.
if you guys would go on to Exhibit A, which is in the packet that has just been handed out.
We don't have ours yet, so wait.
Okay.
Okay, they got one.
You got one? All right, if you guys could go to the budget cover sheet, it is Exhibit A. If you look, the general government this year is going to be at a 14.39% increase from last year. A vast majority of that is coming out of the appropriations. I'm sorry. Yeah, out of the appropriations, that ends up having a 19.27% increase.
Mentioned that we have two Exhibit As. One is the main piece, one is the percentages. So the document he's speaking
Oh,
about
I'm
has
sorry.
the colored on it.
The color-coded one?
Yes.
If you look, our public works this year ended up taking a decrease. The police ended up taking a decrease. Everything ended up taking a decrease with the exception of the appropriations. That ended up being an increase. We go down to the appropriations, the next page that we have, which is the partnership organizations that the city ends up working with. The one increase that we had, we took a decrease across the board this year with the exception of adding in for Servants of Shelter, and that would have been a $10,200 increase. We have not given to them in the past. The reason that we did this is we pulled this out of our economic development fund, and the reason for it is it costs taxpayers not more money. It costs taxpayers money to have people that don't have a place to stay. In the event that people were having to be jailed, whatever, because they had no place to stay. So we ended up putting this on the EDA this year. We also, if you look, and this is one of the things that has been hotly disputed at the council level, is at the very bottom, I'm sorry, I'm jumping pages and I apologize. We in this have decided to cut the airport funding this year to $175,000. That is an additional conversation that we've been having at the council on whether we continue with the airport. That was the conversation we had earlier at our last meeting. As of right now in this budget, we have cut the budget to $175,000. And then if you guys want to just continue on, I know we're throwing a ton of information at you all at once, and we do apologize for that. If you look at the pie charts that we have, this is kind of key, and this is one of the things that I think people definitely need to understand in our community, how we get our funding to operate the city. If you look at the first one, our local government aid, we get about $4.4 million from the state to operate the city. Our taxes that come in from the residents are $3.5 million, about 22%. We do bring in money from the Voyageurs National Park lease, but that also goes out to pay the bond on that. Our ambulance fees are $1,693,000, or about 10% of the revenues that we bring in. Sewer fees is about $2 million. And the sales and use tax is about 1.1 million. Now, how do we spend those monies? General government, which is our fire, police, administration, public works, that allots for about $6 million of all the monies that come in. Our ambulance is money in, money out. However, based off the conversations that we've been having, what is budgeted is not what's actually coming in. We do lose a substantial amount of money from what we bill to what we receive. So that is, for the sake of this pie chart, it's money in, money out, but we are not recouping the cost that we have on the ambulance. Permanent improvement, that's going to be our streets and permanent improvements. That's about 1.6 million. Reserve for capital outlay, future fire trucks, ambulances, any long-term purchases that we have is $1.1 million. Water and sewer infrastructure is about 1.4, 1.5, and the debt service for Voyageurs National Park is about 1.5. So we have a lot of different things that we're paying for. We are looking at a 9.5% levy increase. Vast majority of that levy increase ends up coming to inflation and our employees based off of their contracts. I would gladly hand off this to any members of the council if they have any thoughts before we open it up for public comment. Brad, would you like to give a quick rundown on the budget in any capacity? Okay. Betty, do you have anything?
I have nothing additional at this time, Mayor.
Okay. So I would ask the city council, do you have any questions on the budget? I would add for the folks that are here to have some knowledge on future conversations on this particular budget. There is strong concerns on being able to fund the airport for next year. In the event that the city does cut the airport budget to $175,000, as we have outlined in this budget, could substantially cause some issues for our partner in the airport, which is the county. The way that the joint powers agreement is worded for the city and the county is either entity can lower the amount of money that they put towards the airport, and the other entity then can either A, lower to the same amount, or they can cover that by raising that dollar amount. In the conversations that I've had with the county, they are planning on continuing at the same amount as requested by the airport. We had lowered ours to $175,000. That is going to make it difficult to operate the airport in 2024. There's been additional conversations at the city council level and in committees that we do fund the airport at 100% for next year. That was kind of the part of the conversation that we had in our last committee meeting, or our last council meeting. However, if we do that, it really puts a strain on the rest of the budget. So one of the things that we're looking at, we would not be in conversation between now and next, in 2 weeks, having a conversation at the council level, keeping the levy increase as what it is of 9.5, which would be the same as what you guys got on your tax forms. However, lowering all of our city services to the 2023 level and raising that amount for the airport. That has been a conversation that we've had. We're all struggling right now to figure out how to continue to fund everything as city taxpayers. I think that anything that you come out of this meeting for tonight, understand that the struggle that we're having right now is residents of International Falls are paying 50% of the airport, and then their county taxes are also going to fund the airport. I'm not going to say it's 2/3, I'm not going to say it's double, but you're getting taxed at a higher rate than people in the county for the airport. The same conversation that we had at our town hall meeting last week regarding the ambulance. When there is a loss on the ambulance, the only folks that are financially responsible for that is the residents of International Falls. Not the folks that use the service, but the folks from International Falls. So as we're sitting up here, all of the decisions that we're trying to make is representing you. And yes, your taxes have went up, and we're cognizant of that. But we're doing everything in our power to try to keep those numbers not necessarily as low as we can, but to offer the services that you expect from being a city of 6,000 people. And it's a tough gig, as everything has went up in price, but I think that's where we're at. And again, I'll offer it to the council if you have anything follow up to that.
Just that my math skills aren't that good. That was a rough estimate, 2/3.
So, with that being said, I will open it up for public comment. I would like, you need to come forward, state your name and address for the record, and we'll take input on the budget. You got to come forward.
Okay, Julie Maelstrom, 904 6th Street. Is it for final that you're going to leave the taxes at 9.5%, Harley?
The lowest, if we were to fund the airport, to try to alleviate that concern that we have with our partner of Coochin County, which I do think is the right move for us to do, the lowest we could move the levy would be, help me Brad, 9.03? 9.03.
There's got to be more cuts done in here. There's other things you can cut in here.
I am more than willing to listen to what you think needs to be cut. That's a conversation that we
Yeah.
need to hear.
We've given tobaccos long enough. Another thing is I'm really stumped with Teddy restructuring things and adding on each two things he wants to change around $5,000 each, which is $10,000. That's our tax money.
Specifically, what are you citing?
Teddy is restructuring the public works. He wants to have an assistant public works person.
Yes.
For what reason? What reason? Isn't that his job?
I'm not going to address, I will address that, but that is not necessarily pertinent to what we're discussing today.
But it's to do with our taxes. You're using our tax dollar for him to restructure those two things, and they will be getting each $5,000 something more, which is our tax money. So that's like $10,000 more dollars. That's not necessary. I'm sorry.
Okay.
You know, we'll be living in the Northern Lights Motel. You know, us senior citizens only get so much money. It's scary. It's very scary. And there's no reason that he should have to bump that up to 10 more grand for each thing he wants to do.
Can I backtrack? And I did make note on that for the budget issues for Public Works and the restructuring. I have that in note. Specifically, I just want you to understand that one of the things that we did on this year's budget compared to last year's budget, we cut all of the appropriations 20%. Do you have issues with any of the other appropriations?
Well, I think there can be a lot of more cuts here. I really do. We're a very little town. We're not Minneapolis, we're not Duluth, and we're acting like we are, if you really look at it. And we don't need all these assistants here and assistants for there. We're little, we're small.
Mhm.
And by adding on, 10 more grand, when we should be doing cuts. He shouldn't have to have an assistant. If he does his job, do your job.
Okay. Understood.
But I mean, Bacchus, we've given many years to Bacchus. They should be on their own now.
Okay.
25,000. And the TV thing, whatever's that TV on there, we don't need to be paying.
Hold on. The TV thing, I want to make sure that that's clear. That is money in, money out. The money that comes in is from the television channel specifically that funds that. So the money that comes in is paid for by the people that are using Charter, and then that money goes directly to them.
They pay it, we don't pay it?
It is not
shows
a,
us paying $12,000.
Betty, can you clarify that?
Yep, I sure can. It's called the franchise agreement, and everybody who subscribes to Midco, there's a franchise fee on your bill, and that is then in turn submitted to us. And then that goes out to KCC TV to provide that public channel for our citizens, which airs all the public meetings, concerts, and different things that have been designated for the KCC TV. So that is a fee that's an in from Midco back out to KCC TV.
So why does it show us paying $12,000?
We have to do that through the Midco has to submit that to the city. It's a franchise fee that's on, like my Midco bill. If I look at my Midco bill, there's gonna be a fee on there. It says franchise fee. Midco sends us that monthly on however many subscriptions they have in our area. And then we turn around and we send that out to KCC TV for that purpose of broadcasting different programming that they have set up to do.
So
for
it's a
public.
revenue and an expenditure.
I guess I'm still confused. So the taxpayers are not paying $12,000?
No.
But there are a few things in here you can cut, really.
And that's one of the conversations that we had was about the appropriations, and that is always a tough conversation that we have because all of these organizations do wonderful things for our community. However, it ends up being put on the taxpayers, and all of us, not all of us, we agree that that is something that we can look at, and that's why we've been cutting them 20% every year.
If you look at that, Julie, Bacchus has been cut from
Well, I see, but they've been there long enough.
65,000 down to 20
We were paying when I
some
was on the council.
Yeah,
That's
I
been
know.
many years ago.
Yes, you were.
And we don't mind helping out, but it's time they go on their
But
own.
we've been cutting them.
Well, no,
Like what
I'm
Harley
just saying,
said.
it's time they
We've
go
been-
on their own.
We've been cutting them 20% per
Yeah.
year.
But still, it's time. It's time. And, I'm sorry, the serve to shelter, whatever, now you gave them $10,000.
The Servants for Shelter, and I would, that ended up, it is out of the EDA fund, so that is coming, it's not coming from the general fund, it is not coming from the general taxpayers. What that money is coming from is the Voyageurs National Park lease and the EDA fund of the City of International Falls, along with the $20,000 that we're giving to Rainy River Community College for the healthcare initiative. That is to try to get nurses into the community. So that fund is specifically dedicated to economic development and community development. It doesn't go toward, it's not a taxpayer account, it is the EDA fund.
But that's still taxpayers' money.
Yes, I can't argue that,
That's what I'm getting at, Harley. It's still taxpayers' money.
but it's dedicated for community development and economic development. So,
Well, for a while, we're all going to have to, everybody's going to have to suffer here because we're in trouble. And, you know, we have no money for ambulance. And why Teddy thinks that he can give out 10,000 more grand when we got no money for the ambulance. I mean, you got to look at it logically.
I'm not arguing that.
No, and I understand that. But if we're in dire need in these other places, he shouldn't be able to raise this. We all like to make that wage that they're going to make. I'd love to make it. I wouldn't have to sit and try to figure out where I'm going to get the money to pay my taxes. And it's scary.
Understood.
You know, it is scary. So anyway, the people need to just take a look at things and keep their eyes and ears open.
Thank you, Julie.
Because I do know there's a good old boys club running here. I do know that.
All right, anyone else like to come forward? Please.
Seth Boyer, 1706 3rd Avenue West. So to stay out of most of the other issues going on here, but one thing I'm seeing here, and I don't know if you can answer this question or there's an explanation for this. I know on the water bills, the sewer bill is normally slightly higher than the water. And on here, the budget revenues for the sewer come out slightly underneath of that. It's also my understanding that, like if you go out to the lake, they've run all the sewer lines out there. Just curious, the discrepancy between those two numbers, if there's much more area that's actually receiving sewer and not water.
Okay, I think I understand your question. I am not an expert in sewer, but I can tell you that the money's coming in is on your sewer bill, and we bill specifically based off of water usage, and we have to pay North Cooch Sanitary District to treat the water. So we get billed from them. There's also additional monies, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brad or Betty, there's additional monies that get put towards the infrastructure. So being able to put in new sewer lines as they get replaced, permanent improvement, any of those things. So we are not paying for the expansion of the sewer outside the city limits. That was put on property owners as that was built, and I believe that there was additional funds that came from Coochiching County to be able to allow that, along with state bonding money.
But is the city then not bringing in the revenue from the sewer access out to the lake?
No,
No.
we don't operate the sewer district. That would be a combination between the North Cooch Sanitary District and East Cooch Sanitary District. We're just a piece of the puzzle. These gentlemen right here sit on the board, so they would be able to give a little bit more information.
And Rainier.
And Rainier.
Okay.
Yeah, so we pay to them, so our billing just is for the water usage of the city.
Right, that makes sense. I was just looking at the discrepancy, and it just seems like, I guess I didn't understand that that's a separate thing.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, well, the revenue for that seems to be much under what then the water is, if much more places like out at the lake or Rainier are receiving sewer services and not the water, then the sewer service should be a higher revenue.
Yeah, and we get billed from North Cooch, so that's how we don't get that. Please.
Councilor Mayor, so we supply water to the city of Grenier, and we don't get sewer fees on that. And then also our paper makers, they have water service only and no sewer. So not everyone is getting a water and sewer on their bills.
Right. Right, it makes sense. That's just something I caught on here.
So that
And
would
my
be-
question being, if it would seem more people are in fact connected to the sewer, like out at the lake, why would that revenue not be?
We don't.
We don't have it. It's not ours. Right.
All right. That answers that question then.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks, Seth.
Any other public input? Please, Dan.
Hi, I'm Dan Sweeney, live at 1814 7th Avenue East. I think everybody up here knows me. Just a quick question, just going through the pie charts. I know you guys got a really tough job trying to do a budget, and you got the ambulance and all this different stuff going on.
Yeah.
But for the pie charts, the 2023 budgeted expenditures, underneath general government, we have $6,045,908. And that was for 23. And for 24, looks like $6,951,510. Just wondering how that's 956,000, just shy of it, $905,000 difference. So just curious about that, because like everybody, our taxes went up too, and we just want to know what's going on.
Brad, could you answer that one?
So you're asking about the additional expenditures in 24 versus 23?
Yeah, because it looks like for general government, the ambulance stayed the same. Looks like the library was pretty close, actually, went up just a little bit, 2%, but the general government went up $900,000. So just kind of curious where that's going.
Yeah,
So
please.
I think last year,
Fantastic question.
yeah, last year it, if I remember it, I think it was broke down from previous years, and there's, I think pretty much every department we had to cut. In every department, I think administration maybe went up for something that was coming down the pipe. We had to
Yeah.
make an adjustment there, 27%, but like last year, everything got cut, so.
So Dan, if you go to the third page of your presentation,
Brad, can you come up to the microphone so they can hear you online?
so if you're on your third page of your presentation, you can look over here, and these are the expenditures for 24
Okay.
in each of the areas. These are the expenditures in just this white area.
That's the actual expenditures?
Yes, for
Okay.
23. So there's your variances off of each area,
Okay.
and where the additional funds are going.
So that negative actually means it's positive for next year.
No, that
Or-
negative means it's a negative variance. It went up.
It went up, okay. Okay, well, that makes sense.
Well, that
So-
changes my whole perspective of it too.
Yeah, I saw a minus, and I'm like, it just wasn't adding up. I'm not a financial whiz, so that's
Well,
why.
no, it's just, negative variances always go,
So
or
this-
unfavorable variances are always negative
So this is the increase
in each of the areas over here
for next year,
for the expenditures.
for the
yes.
expenditures. So where we have a negative, like 3.1% for public works, 13.5% for police,
Those are all increased costs.
those are
So
increased costs.
I misspoke, and I apologize.
Yeah. 'cause it's
That
like-
changes the whole narrative.
Yeah, all right. Well, I just wanted to, I couldn't figure it out, so I guess I'm glad I wasn't alone.
Brad, could you just give a quick overview of what you just said and why those numbers had went up with, through the budget process, real quick?
Well, they went up because you approved their budgets in each of the areas. I mean, that's literally
Yeah.
why they went up.
But now, when we've had our conversations and our discussions since this budget was produced and sent to the state, these numbers would all be, and that's where I got mixed up, because we've had more conversations on the budget since this was sent in. These numbers would then be going down to the 2023 levels, correct?
Yeah, if you choose to rearrange the budget and formulate a methodology to pay for the airport, yes, these numbers will change significantly.
Okay. And that's where I got turned around because we've had those conversations since that budget went out.
Yeah, but, I mean, the Truth and Taxation meeting is designed
Yep.
to give the details on your preliminary budget.
Okay,
This is
understood.
what your preliminary budget is at this point in time.
Fair enough. Please.
And just, Mayor, as a reminder too, the 9.5% is a maximum levy at this time. You cannot raise that levy going forward. It can be lowered, just as a reminder.
Correct. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Brad.
Any other comments? All right.
You got one more.
Oh, please.
One more.
Bob Stickle, 1320 13th Street. As far as the tax base, you said not to talk about your personal property or your house, but I live on 1300 block of 13th Street. I have no city water in the street, no sewer in the street. The storm sewers collapsed 2 decades ago. Been after the city to do something, but nothing ever happens. And then my taxes go up $1,000. So, but what you're saying is I can't dispute my taxes from 2 weeks ago till next spring when they're due?
When you get when the yellow form comes out in the spring,
I heard that.
yep, that is the time where I think there's a 2-week window or a month window that you can have a conversation with the tax assessor to change the value of your home. And then you also have the opportunity, if that doesn't work, if you guys can't come to an agreement or it doesn't work out, then you can go to tax court. And then that time frame is a little bit later in the year. And I don't know the specific time frame. It may be June, it may be July. But the reason that they have tax court is so that you can have your value settled before the taxes come out. But yes, at this time, I would highly encourage just reaching out to the county tax assessor. I would be shocked if there was anything they could do with it this year. But yes, next year, that would be an opportunity to have a conversation.
An engineer came up from Hibbing last spring and looked at this issue I'm having. See, all around me is a swamp. It's a Hanover old property across the street. It's a swamp.
Yep.
And the water never drains. I talked to this city engineer from Hibbing that come to the falls.
Yep.
He said, oh, we can't fix this. It costs us too much money. That's what he told me. And the city engineer from town here was standing right there with me. And away they went. So anyways, that's why I'm a little chipped on,
No, I
the
completely
taxes.
understand that.
you know. My house is valued as the houses in the neighborhood, you know.
That have
your
sewer and
house-
water?
My water runs over 300 feet from 14th Avenue, and so does my sewer, under the neighbors' driveways and, you know, so.
I would definitely have that conversation because I would, just outsider perspective, I would assume that would have a major bearing because they're looking, I have to assume their assumption would be that you have sewer, city water, and so therefore it would balance with the rest of the neighborhood.
Well, my house does have that, but my block does not have any of them services.
What? Oh, I'm
House has
confused.
city sewer and water,
Okay,
but it comes from way over on 14th Avenue,
okay,
all the way up to the middle of my block, just for my house. The
okay.
reason none of the other properties have ever been built on is because I'm in a swamp.
I got you. Okay,
And the city sewer drain water collapsed 2 decades ago, and they never fixed it. So the property fills up with water, mosquitoes,
that's stormwater?
stormwater.
Okay,
The street sweeper came and cleaned up the slime and the algae and the growth all down in front of my house last year. And he went back to the city garage, took him 2 hours to clean up the sweeper.
okay,
And he won't bring it back again. He said, I'm not putting that in my sweeper. So, and they know about that at the city garage too, so.
Okay.
Anyways, that's all I got.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
It's all about my taxes.
Yeah.
Thanks now.
Yep, thank you. All right, so there is going to be some additional conversation regarding the budget. At our next council meeting, we'll have, on December 18th, that will be when we finalize the budget and the levy. Part of this year ended up getting a lot more herky-jerky than what we've had to do in the past. And the reason for it is the state for this year mandated that we had to send in our preliminary budget. We've never had to do that before. This is the first year we had to send in the preliminary budget along with the preliminary levy. So when this has gotten discombobulated a little bit today, part of it is because of the process. We've continued to move forward with the budget to try to come up with a solution. However, the budget that we have before us now is the one that we were mandated to turn into the state a month and a half ago. So that's where this meeting has went a little bit kittywampus, because we've already moved on from this budget. So we've had additional conversations on trying to work within the levy that we have. So I do apologize. Brad, this is the first year we've ever had to do this, correct? Turn in the preliminary budget? Okay. So, yes.
One last question. I'm thinking others may be curious too. Terry Schultz, 622 9th Street. At the meeting at Bacchus, when we were discussing ambulance service, you said no taxpayer dollars will be used in 2024 to supplement the ambulance. So are we going to have an ambulance service?
We will have an ambulance, yes. Oh, finish your question, I'm sorry.
So if there's no funding, how is it going to operate?
We're going to continue to run a deficit. So just like I had said at that meeting, the city council years ago made a resolution saying that half of our annual budget needs to be in reserves. So the city has historically sat with roughly $7 million in the bank. Is that an accurate number, Brad? Right in that general area? $7 million in the bank. And as when times were good with the ambulance, money stayed in that ambulance fund and it went up. As we've lost money at the ambulance, it's went down. To cover that, we have used our reserves. So there is no, this is a budget from money in, money out every year. So as we're losing money in the ambulance, that's coming out of reserves. So next year, we will continue to run the ambulance. However, if there's another deficit, it'll come out of reserves. We're working right now, in fact, I've had multiple conversations today with folks from the federal level and from the state level on trying to help not just us, but other communities that are running deficits in their ambulance cover those costs in the future.
Okay, I'm guessing some of the confusion that I'm hearing a little bit from other conversations is you said no taxpayer money and money will come from reserves. Reserves are taxpayer money.
Understood.
So it's some, in your wording, it's very
Okay.
confusing. So you need to clarify that.
Okay. We are not raising any taxes to cover the ambulance losses.
That's what you have to explain to people then.
Fair enough.
That's all we
Yep.
wanted to know. People wanted to know that we're not going to be without ambulance.
We are not going to be without an ambulance.
Okay.
Thank you.
Or we're working towards too not being without an ambulance, but also keeping our
ALS service, which is advanced life support
Yeah.
rather than the basic life support.
Because between here and Bemidji, here and
Yeah.
Duluth, here and Rochester, you need that.
But we're not even looking at the option of BLS. We need what we have.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming out and listening to the Truth in Taxation meeting. Like I said, there's going to be an additional conversation with the council. And on December 18th, we will have our final budget and levy at that meeting. Again, thank you all for coming out. This meeting is adjourned.